friends, I'm Ashley. Welcome to Darling Cottage Diary. If you're new around here, I typically do quiet ASMR type of videos. If you've missed any of these, most of them are quiet. I will link those in the description box below. But I love to art journal. I love to regular journal. I just don't typically film that because it would just be me writing. Not to mention it's very personal. So if you are new to any of this, I do have little kits that I hand make to get anybody who wants to try it started on my website, darlingcottagediary.com. And if you have started and are kind of looking for a little community, as well as one-of-a-kind ephemera that I hand make and send out to everybody every month, you can find me on Patreon and see if that's something that you're interested in. So today I wanted to explore the Wizard of Oz, and I have so many things to say. I feel like I've been on a very long journey this month, and I just needed to talk about it. If you've been following me, you know that there's been some drama, and I found myself, after somebody last week requested Wizard of Oz, I did Alice in Wonderland, and Alice and Dorothy actually have a lot of things in common with just their journeys, the worlds they go through, how they get home. They're very similar. As I was thinking about the story, as well as looking for visual ephemera, even the color scheming and all of that's very similar between the stories. So anyway, getting started, I had this paper that I found maybe 2 years ago. I am, as the joke goes, collecting craft materials is a hobby in and of itself, besides just using it. And that's part of why I started my channel, was because I was collecting too much and not using it enough. I suffer from the I don't want to waste it syndrome. And this is my journey in trying to cure myself of that. It still strikes, but it does force me to get out of that hoarding type of mindset of I'm never going to find something this pretty again. I have to wait to use it. And then every time I journal, I always feel better. I woke up so grumpy this morning. I sat down. It started thunderstorming. The storm will start about halfway through the video, and just was really pondering the Wizard of Oz and Dorothy and her journey while I was doing this. I felt so much better after I was finished. So what I'm using here is just regular old wall spackle that you can get at any hardware store, the little $3 or $4 canister. All of the brands have different textures. This one's very light and airy, and I can't remember the name of it. I'll put the link in the description for it below, though, so that y'all can find it. But I have one of at least all of the ones of my local hardware store because I need the different textures for different effects I'm trying to make. But this is the one I use the most, especially when I'm trying to use a stencil, because it's not very wet. It's very airy. It spreads nicely without getting the paper super wet, and it absorbs color really well whenever I want to paint or use ink on it to color it. So this is the one I use most of the time, but I've used the other ones as well. And if you're somebody who typically likes the quiet videos and just the no voiceover, whenever I do voiceovers, I save the non-voiceover version, and then I compile them into a really long, like hour-long ASMR video. So if you're somebody who's not into the voiceover, I will be reposting this with some other ones later. So because the ASMR on this one is really good, especially with the thunderstorm going in the background. But I just wanted to talk about Dorothy and how she can teach us about perspective, because she is whisked away in this sudden storm, and I think we can all relate to, change and challenges and tests. They all happen when we don't expect them. And when they happen, it can feel very frustrating, and then it can also feel exhilarating. And you see her wrestling with this in the story. If she lands in a land that's colorful and bright and happy, and she meets Glinda, and it seems like this is a good thing. She gets some really, really pretty ruby slippers, and like it seems like it's going to be an easy journey. And as she continues, challenges pop up. She meets people who help her, and these people all represent parts of herself that she is trying to improve. And I think all challenge can be seen through the lens of the Wizard of Oz. And that's how, really classic good stories, we can all project our own lives onto. And so I think that's why it's such an enduring story. So she continues and meets the Scarecrow, and he just really wants a brain. He wants a brain so badly. And over again, he proves that he's the smartest of the bunch, and he's the wittiest and the cleverest, and he gets them out of so many scrapes with his mind, even though he feels like he doesn't have a brain, a physical human brain. And in Dorothy, she probably sees this as part of herself. She's smarter than she knows. When she finds, when she comes up against a challenge, she can think herself out of it. But she doesn't trust herself yet. And through the Scarecrow, she learns this about herself. And then we have the Tin Man, and he's wants a heart, but he's the most emotionally intelligent. He's the most caring. And again, this is part of Dorothy. She is trying to be emotionally intelligent without being a pushover. And then we have the Cowardly Lion. She wants to be courageous. And through him, she sees, I am really brave, and I just didn't see it. And throughout all the challenges she goes through in this story, she collects these little bits and pieces of herself and takes them back to Kansas with her. And then, of course, we have our quote villains. And I know there's like Wicked and all of these other kind of like villain retelling stories or whatever about Glinda and the Wicked Witch of the West and all of that. I haven't even seen them. I'm old-fashioned. I haven't been to the movies in a really long time. But I wanted to focus on the traditional classic telling of the story for this page, as well as just pondering about it. And so in the villains we have, the witch is the person who helps facilitate bringing all of these qualities that Dorothy wants to have out. She is the catalyst for Dorothy growing into these qualities that she wants. And then she gets all the way through this, and she's just holding in her mind Oz, the Emerald City, just getting there. She just wants to get to Emerald City, talk to the wizard so that he can send her back, so that he can be the savior of her story. And then when she sees that he's just a man, just a person, just a human, and he can't save her, and then she realizes the whole time she's had these slippers to help her, and she gets back home. And it really reminded me of a quote that I read by Maya Toll, and she's written several books and made card decks to go with them, and I like using card decks to help me journal sometimes. There's something that helps give perspective and help me reflect on things that are maybe more subconscious, and I really like doing that. And she has one called the Herbiary, and she was writing about the herb thyme. She says, mythology teaches that a minotaur haunts the labyrinth of your psyche. As you walk toward your center, this monster prowls and roars and trying to scare you off your path by revealing your fears and inadequacies to you. But you're never truly alone. You have to understand the journey, and the labyrinth is an ancient construct meant to mirror our path through life, the twisting and turnings, the feelings of being so close to our goal, only to be guided away. Unlike a maze, a labyrinth has no dead ends or wrong turns. Walking it eases the mind and relaxes the body. We see with both Alice and Dorothy in both stories that they are going through a labyrinth. They're not going through a maze where they inevitably have to turn around and find a new direction. They are not ending up at a dead end where their story suddenly ends. They are not going through anything that is not integral to them growing, not integral to them learning about themselves, gaining knowledge that they need, gaining perspective on something that they need. Every single part of their journey, literally going through their psyches in both stories, because we know that Alice, at least, I'm talking about the Disney version, but also it's pretty apparent, I think, in the Lewis Carroll version, she's asleep. She's going through this crazy dream, getting perspective on the naivety of the world that she has, and also learning about herself. And then Dorothy is doing something very similar, being knocked out by the tornado. So in both of these girls' heads, they are facing monsters. They are going through these crazy highs and lows of anxieties and jubilation and full breadth of emotions, and learning about what they need to learn about and coming out the other side. Again, classics are for a reason. And that timelessness can certainly translate to the modern world in how we live inside of our own minds, just like Dorothy and Alice. But I think rather than it being a dream or, like a daydream, a twilight, like as you're waking up, something that comes to you, rather than it being more of a biological thing, which it still can be, I would want to apply Wonderland and Oz to the world of the internet. A lot of times who people are on the internet is not who they are in real life. We have the physical world, and we also have this waking dream world that we're all part of. And it is bizarre that we have to step back and take perspective from this dream world that we all engage in that has real world consequences often. A lot of things don't, but some things do. Business reputation, finding a job. If you're an artist or any kind of freelancer, a social media platform, which is just something fun and personal for the average person, is essentially an entire portfolio of work. Like, it's a body of work. And I had one of mine taken away in the blink of an eye, and the visceral physical reaction that can come with things happening in this dream world, Dorothy made me realize are no different than dreaming I'm getting chased by a lion and waking up and my heart is pounding and I'm breathing heavy and I'm sweating. Your body doesn't know the difference. And I think it's important to remember that it can have real world consequences, but you're still you, and you still have your talents, and you still have who you are. And as annoying and painful as the things that happen in Oz can be, that part of you can't be taken away. This ephemera book was gifted to me by one of my patrons last year, and she sent me just the most beautifully ridiculous little parcel of the large parcel of amazing things that I love to use, but this is the first time I've actually cut into it, and I love that the paper is not like plasticky. It's very almost newspaper but thicker, and it's perfect for art journaling, so it's so nice. When I've done Oz pages before, which have all been in my little mini watercolor journals, pretty early in my channel actually, I focused on characters. Like I did one page that was Glinda, and one page that was the Wicked Witch, and one that was Dorothy before she left Kansas, and it was focused on character and aesthetic of the character. And this, I wanted to more span the whole story and focus on the land of Oz itself, which is why, of course, the the poppies and the castle and the yellow brick road, those were the pieces I wanted to highlight. And just to illustrate this, just to illustrate for myself and in my mind, to remind me of perspective of there's always a lesson, there's always a pearl in the middle of the oyster, there's always something in a situation that is the lesson. And I don't mean to be callous in that sometimes horribly awful things happen to people. I'm not saying that horribly awful things happen for a reason at all. But I do know that if people can find meaning in horrible things that happen to them, in the chaos of the physical universe we live in, that those things don't affect us as badly as it could. They don't sink us like it could. We don't stay locked in the witch's castle, finding the lesson, finding meaning in these crazy things that happen is how we grow and how we adapt and how we become resilient to the physical world that sometimes feels like it's out to get us. And that's not necessarily the truth, but even if you strip away all of the modern things of human life, you look at nature and it's just constant competition for survival. And that's all it is. And so humans are the ones who make meaning out of things, and that's something very special about our species. And I think in the Scarecrow and in the Tin Man and in the Lion, all within Dorothy and herself, we see how these lessons can manifest in finding that the things that happen to us simply temper us. If you want to go with a metalsmith analogy, they unveil things within ourselves we didn't know that we could handle. And I think that's really beautiful. So, I know this was rambly, as many of my speaking videos are, but if you're going through a difficult season, and if you've been on my channel, you know that summer is typically my difficult season. I have tried to romanticize it, I've tried to do so many things, but summer typically is a time of great change and upheaval for me. It just happens that way. So this summer was no different, and I'm looking forward to fall. So hopefully, if you are going through your own Oz journey, your own Oz labyrinth, you remember that labyrinths don't have dead ends. It may feel like you're further away from where you're trying to go, but you will get there. So, if you have made it this far, please leave below in the comments your favorite character from The Wizard of Oz. I have to say that mine has and always will be Glinda, because I fell in love with her pink fairy dress in the original movie. And just her, like, I mean, Galadriel is my favorite in Lord of the Rings. Like, I just typically really like the ethereal, beautiful, and powerful females in a story. But I also love Dorothy. I love the witch. I love all of the characters for their own reasons. Between the three of the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion, the Lion is my favorite. So, let me know who your favorite is, and if you feel up to sharing why, share why. But I don't know. I think it says a lot about us who is our favorite of certain characters in different stories, and I love hearing everybody's perspectives. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will be back with a quiet ASMR video next week.